Have you ever thought, why don't my chords sound like they go together well? Have you ever thought, why does this feel clunky, like I'm trying to connect things that don't connect? My chords sound like they came from different sound sets, different alphabets. They sound like train cars that aren't connected. There's no glue holding them together. Well, chances are that it's simply the chord inversions or the voices that you are choosing. Chord inversions and voice leading are going to be your new secret weapons. They allow you to create smooth parts, smooth transitions between chords. They add depth. They add glue to your old boring chords. Whether you pick a guitar or a bass, mastering these concepts can elevate your music. This week, we're diving into the world of chord inversions and voice leading. Ready? Let's get nerdy, y'all. I'm Andy Schneider, career musician turned guitar coach, producer, and author of over 100 books from my publishing company, Sing Music Books. I was a high school band nerd, then a devoted jazz guy, then a backing musician for great artists in every type of music. From Austin to Nashville to New York City, I've learned from my musical experiences and the great musicians that were there with me. I'm a self-taught guitarist, but I was lucky enough to get the right bits of education early on in my career. Pairing that with the many conversations I've shared with more experienced musicians put me on the path to success, a path that built my skills to become the experienced, confident musician audiences enjoy today. I created the Guitar Nerd podcast to give you simple steps to building and growing your musical knowledge, having greater abilities, and getting that amazing music that's inside of you out and into the world where we can all enjoy it. Whether you're a beginner or experienced guitar or bass player, if you want to make fantastic music, you're in the right place, my friend. Now let's get nerdy. Welcome, everybody. Welcome back another week to Guitar Nerd. This is Andy Schneider. Don't adjust your Alexa. Don't adjust your earbuds. It sounds like there's a clothespin on my nose, and it feels like there is too. My seasonal allergies just leapt up and smacked me upside the head all week this week. Yow. There doesn't seem to be enough medicine to fix this allergy problem of mine. So we all just have to bear with it. Sorry about it. If you're a regular listener of the show, thanks a bunch. You know that this is the place where we talk all the nerdy stuff about guitars and bass guitars, about picking them, about the equipment that it takes to make great music. Whether you're new to playing or have a lot of experience, you'll find something inside of here to energize your music this week. We're going to be talking about chord inversions. I love chord inversions and the related topic, voice leading. Have you thought much about these concepts? Have you heard of them? We're going to be getting down and dirty with it. I'm going to show you how to use chord inversions in your everyday playing. It's super simple. It's more of an editing trick than anything else. It's more about subtraction than addition. Does that sound easy? It is. It is. Last week's episode, if you listen, it was game killers. 4 horrible, tragic, perilous, game-ending pedal board mistakes. Okay, that might be a stretch. I don't know if they're game-ending or horrible and tragic, but they're common mistakes that we all make when we're first putting together pedal boards. And they really can mess up your tone, which leads to messing up your playing, which leads to messing up your gig. We don't want any of that. So if you have a pedal board and you've thought, why isn't it coming together the way I know it should? Maybe go back and check out last week's episode. It's Guitar Nerd episode 27, Game Killers. Well, this week we're going to be talking about the whole subject of chord inversions and voice leading. These are essential tools for crafting smooth and compelling chord progressions. Chord inversions or voice leading might sound like complex terms, but they're really about making your music sound more cohesive, more connected. It's going to sound more expressive and emotive, convincing, just by choosing well what notes you include in your chords and which notes you do not. Let me break this down. Well-chosen chord inversions and good voice leading are the glue that hold your chord progressions together. They create a seamless flow from one chord to the next, keeping the tone consistent and meaningful and powerful. I'm going to get out my guitar in just 1 second and show you exactly how easy this is and how much of a difference it does make. Chord inversions are variations of a chord where the notes are rearranged so that a note other than the root is the lowest note. For example, in its most basic form, the C major chord is spelled C, E, and G, and we generally think of that as the root on the bottom, C, E, and G. Well, the first inversion of that would place a different note, actually the next note up from C, which is E, would place that note, E, on the bottom. So in its root position, C major is C, E, and G. The first inversion of C major would be E, G, and then back to C. E, G, C. So the lowest note would be now E. That's the first inversion. The second inversion goes to the next note, which is G, and would be spelled G, then C, then E. The lowest note is G. So in the root position, it's C, E, G. First inversion, E, G, C. Second inversion, G, C, E. That's pretty simple, right? Root position, first inversion, second inversion. Now, why would you need to know this stuff? Why pay attention to it? Well, chord inversions and talking about voice leading goes all the way back. It's something that you learn when you start studying classical music, because that's what made all those groovy chords that those guys were using sound so great. Imagine a pipe organ playing a few chords of a Mozart thing. You can probably imagine, even if you're not that familiar with Mozart, it all kind of hangs together, right? It sounds great as a unit. And that's because they didn't just play chords. These composers didn't just write chords in the root position of, say, C, E, and G all the time. Sometimes they went to E, G, and C, or G, C, and E. And the question is, why and when? Well, it all depends on what came before and what came afterward. The whole point of using chord inversions is to get to a much more meaningful area of discussion, which is the voice leading. So we know that no song is made up of just C major, right? We've got to go from C probably to, well, let's say F, and maybe from F to G. Well, in being crafty and choosing the right inversions of those chords, you can get sort of tone sets, like 3 chords that are not all in their root position with the root on the bottom. Maybe one of them is, maybe 2 of them are not. And the reason is, as they kind of lay on the fretboard, since we're talking guitars here, as the way that they lie on the fretboard and then inside of your ears, maybe one in a root position and the other 2 in first inversion are going to sound great together, because the notes sort of lead from one to another. I'm going to get out trusty nylon guitar and play them for you in just 1 second. Chord inversions create smoother transitions, aka better voice leading, smoother transitions between the chords by minimizing the movement of individual notes. Think about 3 dots all in a row, as opposed to 1 dot here, 1 dot across the room, the other dot somewhere behind you on the ceiling. or 3 dots right there in front of you. That's what we're talking about. Keeping notes together so that it creates sort of a gravity, a tonal gravity. Sound good? Don't you want to be able to do that on your guitar? Of course. I'm going to break out my guitar right now. We're going to get down to it. Here we go. Maybe the best way to demonstrate what voice leading is to show you what it isn't, to show you some really bad voice leading and why you'd want to improve it. If you heard me playing these 3 chords, I'm going to play G, C, and D. Now tell me if you think these 3 chords go together, right? G, C, and D, they should, right? Okay. Well, you just tell me if this sounds good to you. Did that really sound like 3 chords that came from the same tone set, came out of the same box? No, not really. Not really. They kind of sounded all over the place, like those dots, one in front of you, one behind you on the ceiling, one across the room. They're all over the place. And yeah, that was kind of an extreme example, but I was playing one G in the normal open position and a C up the neck and a D bar chord, and I had a little of this and a little of that, and it just doesn't really go together. Now, I could just play open chords. Let's say I needed to create or need to choose 3 ways of playing G, C, and D for my upcoming song. I could choose to play them all in the open position. Okay, that's all right. Pretty good. They kind of all go together. They're pretty plain vanilla. And they're also kind of large. Don't you think? Like, it's sometimes you need to play all 6 strings to get a good rhythm strum going. But then there's other times that there's a busy band situation. And playing 6 notes at a time starts to get pretty muddy. Everybody's looking at you like, can't you take up a little bit less sonic real estate there? So here's a way to accomplish all of it, to make chords that sound like they go together better, and also to just be a little bit more economical, which is always appreciated by your fellow musicians and your listeners. So let's say that I want to play a G, and I want to play it on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th string. Oh yeah, I like this one. So rather than play a full G chord, or even playing the bar chord version of that, that's a G bar chord, the 3rd fret, I'm going to pick just 3 notes of that. I'm going to edit out every note except for the ones on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th strings. So I've got G, B, and D. Okay, that's G. Now I need to find a C chord. And I wish to find something that kind of sounds like it comes from that sound set. It's a nearby cousin. Well, let's see. I was playing a G bar chord, and then I wonder, let's just examine the C bar chord, just for fun. Yeah, that's C bar chord. 3rd fret, C bar chord. Well, again, I'm going to pick the notes on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th string. Okay, so I went from this chord of G to this chord of the little subset of C. And likewise, I'm going to look at D major. D major bar chord is, and I'm going to edit again down until I keep only the notes on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th string. See how all of these chords have been on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th string? Okay, so that is how I select my chords. And if I want to get technical about it, I can say, I had G, B, and D. Well, that's the root position of G major. The root inversion, if you will. And then I played, so I went from G, B, and D. I'm going to now go to G, C, and E. G, C, and E. Well, let's see. I think we talked about this earlier. The C major chord, when you start on G, the third note, you call it the second inversion. So this must be a second inversion C major chord. Just sounds like a C major chord to me, but it sounds really good with this one, G. Yeah, boy, those sound really great. And the reason that they sound great together is that the notes don't move very far. They don't move very far from one chord to the next chord. Also, of an added bonus, since we're on the guitar, all three of those notes are on the second, third, and fourth string. So being that every string of the guitar has a unique voice, like 6 singers in a small choir, we're using the same strings. We're using the same singers to sing both chords. If I were to play one chord down here, and one chord up here, and one chord over here, sounds like the men are singing, the women are singing, the men are singing. And it really doesn't feel very fun. Doesn't feel like it goes together. It's jolting, and maybe that's fun. Maybe that's going to be great for a surprise part of a song. But in general, we want our parts to kind of hang together sonically. So I went from this G now, G, B, D, to G, C, E. And then of my D major, I just take that chord and move it up 2 frets. Yep, that's part of D bar chord. That's D bar chord, and here's the second, third, and fourth string. Okay, I kind of like that. Those 3 chords go together pretty well, and those are not uncommon grips that especially electric guitar players will use, because they just sort of fit in the middle of a big band situation. They've got a lot of impact, and the voice leading is good. Okay, those are the bare basics of voice leading and chord inversions. And it's pretty neat what they can do for your sound. Adds a lot of economy and just gives it a really smooth amount of polish. It gives your part a lot of finesse. Well, bass players, this applies to you too. Now, sure, we don't often play chords on the bass guitar, but we do play chords one note at a time, right? Recall an episode a couple of weeks ago about walking bass lines. Well, good walking bass line is like a chord spread across a whole measure, where you don't play the notes of the chord all at the same moment. You play them one note at a time. So guitar or bass, when you're playing a part that's individual notes, you still can use voice leading. You still will want to think strategically about your part, about how to add gravity and glue to that part to make it all sound cohesive. Now, let's take a look at this very specific bass line, but it's going to be, again, a song in G, C, and D. And if I'm playing a basic triad here, that's G, B, and D. If I play them all at the same moment, it's a G chord. Okay. And let's imagine I need to go to the C chord. It's most typical in bass playing to have the root be on the 1, to have root be on the downbeat. But it's not always necessary. And in fact, especially if I was making a creative little rhythm guitar part, I might want to go like this. G, B, D. For my C chord, I'm going to play that second inversion again, G, C, E. And then for the D chord, also a second inversion, it's A, D, and F sharp. Back to G. Doesn't that sound nice? It's got a little melody to it. It's all very compact. All of the notes are on the same 3 strings. They're all within 2 or 3 frets of each other. That's why it has that togetherness. And togetherness is a good word in music. So whether you're putting together a guitar part with chords or a bass part with individual notes in a line, the way to approach this is pretty simple. Break it down into the chords you're going to move between. In my case here, I used G, then C. And I said, I need to play these notes in G. Where are the notes in C? Are there any that are very close to those other notes that I just played? I'll use the notes that are closest and start with that sound and see if I like it. Taking the time to pick apart the chords of your progression and find smooth, interesting little ways to move between them is well worth it. It's a little step of editing that really adds to the bottom line of how interesting and compelling your music is. Voice leading and chord inversions. Those are your new secret weapons. This reminds me of that evening. Thank you, guitar nerds. Thanks for tuning in another week. It's just great to have you out there. It's my favorite time of the week, knowing that we're all together, talking music, getting nerdy. Next week is part 2 of the series, Walking Bass Lines. I can't wait. Stay tuned. You got great music inside of you, everyone. We're going to get it out. We're going to get it into the world, and everybody's going to hear the product of this show, which is your music. It's you being you. I can't wait. I will be in the front row. Experiment with chord inversions and voice leading this week. See how they can transform your guitar or bass playing. And listen to your favorite songs and try to identify how these techniques are used. Listen to especially the great rhythm players and listen to how economical their chord choices can be. How everything feels like it flows from one chord into the next. You know why? Because it does. Because they found a way to use probably great voice leading to tie everything together and create a part, not just a collection of chords. Yeah. Until next time, have a great nerdy week. I'm Andy Schneider, the allergy prone, and you've been listening to Guitar Nerd.